It's time for AgriTalk, a discussion of issues and events important to rural America. Here's Mike Adams.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to AgriTalk. Thank you for joining us. I have made my way from San Diego, California to Lexington, Kentucky, and we are here to help kick off National Farm City Week. Actually starts tomorrow, and part of the National Farm City Council's annual Symposium and Luncheon. We are here in Lexington at a wonderful facility, the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about this wonderful facility both today and tomorrow. But our primary focus today will be the childhood obesity issue and school lunch programs, and we have a panel of people with a lot of expertise in this area that will give us some great input on that particular subject as we focus on an issue that has a lot of people talking, especially with new school lunch standards being proposed by USDA that we've talked about in the past. Before I turn to our host, the principal of this school, I want to give you a quick check on the news. The FY 2012 Ag Appropriations Bill, as part of a larger package, has now gone through conference and is coming back to the House and Senate for a final vote. The package includes a continuing resolution that will keep the federal government open until December 16th. The total dollar amount for the Ag Appropriations portion of the bill is $136.6 billion. The Congressional Conference Committee Appropriations Report proposes to cut the Rural Energy for America program by 64%. This measure is expected to pass without amendment. A bipartisan group of lawmakers wants the super committee to go big when it recommends cuts to get the federal deficit under control. The group included House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer, Representative Mike Simpson, and Senators Saxby Chambliss and Mark Warner. They want a big and balanced plan to reduce the deficit. So we'll see what happens next week when that deadline comes for recommendations from the super committee. And South Korea's president has visited his parliament to urge legislators there to vote through a free trade agreement with the U.S. Critics in South Korea say the agreement could threaten their national interests, but even with opposition, the U.S.-South Korean FTA is expected to sail through South Korea's parliament. All right, that is a check on the news. Now, here in Lexington, Kentucky, as I mentioned, we are at the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm, and joining me now is Joe Norman, principal of the Fayette Technical Center, Eastside and Locust Trace campuses. An 82-acre Locust Trace farm where we're at today is quite a facility, and we want to hear more about it. Joe, thank you for being with us. Tell us how this all came about.
This came about with a direct need for our students in Fayette County. We have 39,000 students in Fayette County, over 10,000 in the high schools, and we weren't serving them for the agricultural area. And this is a great opportunity for our students to get the knowledge of how agriculture functions and how it's an important part of every day of our life.
Gives them hands-on experience and learning, doesn't it?
Exactly. The hands-on is definitely a part of it, and the relationship with the academics that they're studying in their high schools, that we tie our curriculum directly with the academic curriculum. So students, when they ask, why do I need this, they understand.
Well, tell us about some of the different areas that you teach here.
Some of the different areas, we have a plant and land science, large and small animal, environmental tech, biotechnology, wildlife management, forestry, large and small animal, ag mechanics, and one thing unique for us is the equine program that we have.
You mean there are horses in Kentucky? I'd have never known that.
Unfortunately, yes, we do. But the horse industry is huge in Kentucky, and we're excited about our horse industry here, and we're excited to be able to have that as a part of our program here and unique part of our program. Another unique part of our program is we do have a veterinarian clinic on campus with us here that our students have the opportunity to go into the vet clinic and participate with that, and also watch live video audio feed from surgeries and exams with the vet clinic so they understand what part that plays in industry.
So these students then get a chance not only with hands-on experience, but it gives them a chance to kind of maybe focus in, hone in on an area, a career that they might want to pursue and really find out if that's what they want to do.
Yes, most parents, it would be nice if your child knew what they wanted to study when they started college. And this gives us, our students, that opportunity to study that and decide, is this really the area I want to go into, before they spend a lot of money and decide that's not really what they want to study.
Well, it's a beautiful facility. We look forward to seeing more of it later and talking with you. And we'll have, our program tomorrow will focus on this great campus here, the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm in Lexington, Kentucky. Joe's going to be our noon luncheon speaker, so you better go prep for that, okay? All right. I just want to mention again, tomorrow we'll kick off National Farm City Week, and just want to mention that since 1955, the National Farm City Council has supported educational programming to build interdependence between rural and urban citizens. And as we all know, with fewer and fewer people having a farming heritage these days, Farm City efforts to increase understanding between rural and non-rural folks are more important today than ever before. All right, just also want to mention a big thanks to the folks at New Holland Agriculture. Our broadcast from here at the Symposium in Lexington made possible by a grant from New Holland Agriculture. We have a good group of folks here with us and a tremendous panel that we will be talking with on the program today. We're going to be talking with Kathy Belcher, Manager of School Programs, Southeast Dairy Association, Kendall Mallory, the Kentucky State FFA President, and Michelle Coker, the Child Nutrition Director, Fayette County School Systems, as we focus in on the childhood obesity issue in this country and school lunch nutritional standards and how schools meet those. That's all coming up on today's program. Our poll question this week at agritalk.com, we're asking you, should Congress fund inspections for horse slaughter? Yes or no? Log on and vote at agritalk.com, and we'll have the results for you on tomorrow's program. All right, we'll take a break. We're in Lexington, Kentucky at the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm. Back with our panel discussion next. This is AgriTalk.
The most important day of harvest is the day
now
you
I get
buy
3
your
minutes
seed.
to catch my breath
That's
before
why
we start
Asgrow
again.
brand soybeans work hard to deliver more of what you're after. You want proof. You want performance. And farmers are
yes, my granddaughter, what
4 and 5
her papa does for work, she
Asgrow
says,
combines
talk,
innovation
talk,
and
talk.
exclusive
That's
genetics
pretty well
with the
sums
added
it up.
benefits of Genuity Roundup Ready to Yield. This technology provides greater yield potential over the first generation Roundup Ready trait. You know what's important, so don't settle for average. Push your fields further with Asgrow. You want proof? Plant it. Asgrow Genuity Roundup Ready to Yield soybeans. Talk to your local Asgrow dealer or find us online at asgrow.com.
Proof is here. Over 8,000 nationwide comparisons prove Asgrow Genuity Roundup Ready 2 yield soybeans out-yielded Roundup Ready competitors by 4.5 bushels per acre.
Always follow grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions. Individual results may vary.
DeKalb corn hybrids out-yielded competitor hybrids by 11.2 bushels per acre nationally. That's based on more than 18,000 comparisons.
For 100 years, the DeKalb spirit of innovation has led to advances that help farmers grow more corn and improve their yields, whatever it takes to make farming better for the American farmer. DeKalb offers the widest variety of genetic and trait options to match your acres and growing conditions. So when it comes time to harvest, you're getting results you can take to the
world
bin.
we live in, all
Leave
kinds
it
of
to
tweeting
industry-leading
going on about
genetics
this
and
event.
advanced genuity traits to
that's
help you
good, I
get
guess.
more
Lots
from
of
every
coverage.
acre.
A lot of people
The
talking
innovation
about
and
it.
performance found in our line of products underlines our passion to do all we can for the American farmer. That's the true strength of DeKalb. Talk to your local DeKalb dealer. For strong root stalks and yields, go with DeKalb. 100 years strong. Always follow IRN, grain marketing, and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions. Individual results may vary.
Recently on AgriTalk.
Our guest, Tim Size, Executive Director for the Rural Wisconsin Health Cooperative, talking about potential cuts that could severely impact rural hospitals.
I think partially what's the concern is the normal support we've had in Congress, and which I believe we still have across the country for rural health and rural hospitals, may not be enough this time because they've set up this super committee. We were a little worried about that structure, but then we got a lot more worried as we started hearing about various proposals that were being circulated that would lead to the cut or actually elimination of the Critical Access Hospital Program, which is the kind of Medicare payment.
Now I'm going to ask you in a minute to let people know you're here, so they know I'm not lying, that there's an audience. So if you want,
Medicare,
when I say let's hear from you, let's let them know. I want everybody back home to know you were clapping.
You're listening to AgriTalk, the voice of rural America.
Welcome back to AgriTalk in Lexington, Kentucky at the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm. We're here for the National Farm City Council Symposium, and there are people here. Trust me. See, they're here. Okay. So we have a number of guests here, and we're going to focus on the childhood obesity problem in this country and the challenge of the meeting the school lunch standards and the school districts face all the time. One of our panelists is Michelle Coker, the Child Nutrition Director for the Fayette County School Systems here in Kentucky, and she's responsible for the National School Breakfast Lunch Program that is operated out of 54 kitchens with approximately 400 employees that serve over 30,000 meals per day. Michelle, thank you for joining us. Just saying those numbers kind of highlights how big of a responsibility this really is.
Thank you, Mike, for having us. It is a big responsibility.
We hear more and more that there are so many children that depend on the school breakfast and lunch program for their main source of nutrition in any given day. Is that what you see here?
Yes, most definitely. This is my 7th year being in the program. We started out maybe 36% free. Now we're up to almost 49% of our district, so almost 50% of the children.
It also strikes me that these are strange times in that we are concerned both about childhood obesity and about those who are food insufficient, that don't have enough to eat. So we're dealing with two different issues at the same time.
Yes, and they're both at different ends of the spectrum that we're dealing with, yes.
How do you approach it? You're in kind of a transition phase now. You're dealing with the current school lunch standards that you have to meet, but at the same time, USDA is proposing new ones that we're waiting to see if they're going to be approved and go into effect. How do you deal with that?
I'm very proud to say that Fayette County has been very proactive. So many things that are being proposed, we've already have in place or in the process of putting into place. So we're transitioning and adjusting, accordingly. There are going to be some challenges with the new proposals that we're looking into and trying to figure out how we can deal with that with the children.
Okay, give us an idea of what, if these proposals go into effect, some of the changes and how you will deal with them.
One of the changes going into effect, of course, is the milk, having the flavored milk being skim. We already implemented that this year, so it's already into the system. Some of the other challenges are looking at the fruit for breakfast, providing a protein for breakfast. We provide fruits and allowable, but also the protein for breakfast. The variety of fruits and vegetables we already have out there, but they're tightened up a little bit on the regulations on how they want them to be offered.
Explain for us how the standards you have to meet. You have to meet certain criteria, right, to be approved by USDA in their program.
Yes, the program has always followed the USDA standards, where we provide a fourth of the dietary RDAs, recommended dietary allowances, for breakfast, and a third for lunch. So we're already in the process and have already done that for years.
Now, some are critical of these changes, saying it's going to be hard for school districts to meet it, and it's also maybe going to put things out there on the menu that kids may not really like, and if they don't like it and don't eat it, then you're kind of defeating the purpose. What are your thoughts?
Right, and also can items be supplied by the vendors that we're trying to get those in as well. Those are some of our challenges, and that's why it has to be a transition period. Many districts across Kentucky and across U.S. are in favor of these changes, but as far as implementing them as of tomorrow, it can be very difficult. But making transitions and working with commercial vendors, it can be more doable.
We're going to get into how you work with vendors and where the food comes from and the preparation and those kind of issues as we go along with our program today. Quickly, I want to bring in Kathy Belcher, Manager of School Programs, Southeast Dairy Association. Kathy, Michelle brought up the issue of flavored milk, and that's been a key one for the dairy industry. But really, the dairy industry has been dealing with, you've been kind of transitioning to the low-fat, the skims and things like that, even with flavored milk, right?
Reformulation of flavored milk has been in the pipeline for several years, knowing we needed to bring the calorie content down, the fat content, but still have a product that's acceptable. Kids do need to drink milk. It has a whole package of 9 essential vitamins and minerals. So the challenge was coming up with a milk that kids would drink, but that would meet these guidelines. So the processors, fortunately, were already at work trying to reduce the sugar content, reduce the fat content. So even though these regulations have not been passed yet, just with the proposal, many processors came on board. So when school started this fall, much of the flavored milk is already fat-free, and much of it has a reduced sugar content.
Which is a much better solution than what some school districts were looking at, and that was eliminating flavored milk altogether.
That's right. And when you look at the research, 70% of the milk that kids drink in school is flavored milk. And when that was removed as an option, the average consumption dropped 35%. And when they looked at that a year later, that had not recovered. So that means that students were really missing out on a lot of nutrition. And when the research looked at what would it take to replace the nutrients that were lost in that milk, it took 3 to 4 foods to fill that nutrient void, and then you're adding back more fat and
more of that
calories.
coming up. This is AgriTalk.
Farming used to pay off only at harvest.
That's one bad
Now,
thing.
with
When
the
I have
Bayer
to hit a
Crop
break, I have
Science
to hit a break.
Innovation Plus program, you can enjoy rewards all year long when it's family time, big game time, or buckle down and work overtime. Purchase qualifying crop protection brands through Innovation Plus and earn points towards electronics, shop tools, home goods, or cash. Call your Bayer Crop Science representative today or visit innovationplusprogram.com.
These are wild times in the agriculture industry. Prices are all over the place, and changes in the macroeconomy, world agriculture, and farm policy can have big implications for your business. I'm Rich Pottorff, Chief Economist at Doan. Let the economists at Doan's Agriculture Report help you sort things out. Go to www.doan.com and sign up for a free trial. Let the Doan economists help you stay ahead of the curve and in the game in these challenging times. That's www.doan.com.
Recently on AgriTalk.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. Our guest, Georgia Ag Commissioner Gary Black. We're talking about the challenge of getting enough workers for agriculture in the state of Georgia and how immigration laws may be hurting that effort.
I would love to know that we could employ local folks that are drug-free, reliable, sober. But I have people tell me that all the time, but then they ask me, tell me where I can find that are able to do this work and willing to do this work and willing to be productive. And so, I hold hope for that. But the immediate need that is still going to have to be met by some type of a guest work program that certainly I've said my entire career. I've no amnesty, no pathways to citizenship, just a work permit that works for agriculture.
You're listening to AgriTalk, the voice of rural America.
Before I started working as a soil scientist.
Before I became a systems engineer.
Before I got started in aerospace.
I was a kid making discoveries.
I did my first lab experiment.
I found out science is cool.
In 4-H.
In 4-H.
In 4-H.
You never know when a spark
Is it okay we're playing 4-H spot instead of FFA?
Can open up a world of possibilities for a young person.
Okay.
That's why 4-H has taken on the commitment
organization
of
out there,
1
is that
million
right?
new scientists and engineers for America's future workforce. With the help of companies and universities around the country, 4-H is growing the next generation of great thinkers.
1 million new scientists.
1 million new ideas.
Learn more and see how you can help at 4-H.org.
Welcome back to AgriTalk in Lexington, Kentucky. We are at the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm. And we're here for the National Farm City Council Symposium looking at the childhood obesity issue and also the school lunch program challenges. And we're talking with Kathy Belcher, Manager of School Programs for the Southeast Dairy Association. Kathy, there's been so much focus on flavored milks, as we were talking about, and some trying to really point a finger concerning childhood obesity at flavored milks. We know they're very popular with kids, well, with adults too. I love them too. Let's talk more about how you're addressing that issue in the dairy industry.
It's important for schools to remember that the research shows that kids who drink flavored milk really have a lower BMI than non-milk drinkers.
Now, when you say BMI?
Body mass index. Okay. So that means that milk is a part of the solution for childhood obesity, including flavored milk. The research showed that kids who drank flavored milk didn't have an overall higher intake of sugar because they tended to drink fewer sodas, fewer juice drinks. They did have a higher intake of those 9 essential vitamins and minerals.
So in other words, you have to look at the total picture, the big picture here,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So the fat content is coming down, the sugar content is coming down of that flavored milk, but it still contains that same package of vitamins and minerals that is so important for children, so it really is a part of the solution.
All right. Michelle, let me ask you real quick. Flavored milk, do you have it in your school district here?
Yes, we do. We have a skim.
Have skim chocolate?
Chocolate, strawberry, vanilla.
Sounds good. And popular with the kids?
Yes.
Very good. All right. So, see, we're addressing that issue already. All right, let's bring in Kendall Mallory, the Kentucky State FFA president. Kendall, thank you for joining us. I understand you took office in June, and you've been busy since then already. On the road a lot?
I have. It's been wonderful.
Now, this particular issue, I know it's one that you are interested in, and how agriculture plays a part in meeting those nutritional needs of students.
Exactly. There are so many different things that agricultural education programs can do to help with childhood obesity and bringing healthier, more sustainable food into our school programs. For example, one of our chapters here in Kentucky, Boyle County FFA, has been nationally recognized for their program. They produce lettuce in their head house through hydroponics, and when they bring that lettuce to the school cafeteria, they use that rather than shipping in lettuce from another producer. And that just helps them to have a healthier, fresher, more sustainable way, and they actually know where it's coming from. They can go to the greenhouse and students can see how it's produced. And if more chapters did that, we could add so many aspects to the food lunch right now.
That is a big key to this local movement that we've seen. Not only do you know who you're buying your food from or getting it from, but it shows students, it's an educational tool to let them see how it's grown, how it's raised, and it makes that connection then they have with their food and who produces it.
Exactly. Ag literacy is a problem that many agriculturalists face today. Because people are so far removed from the farm in general, our overall population is, it is very important for those involved in agriculture today to make sure that everyone is aware of our practices, what we offer, and why it's so important to continue to support agriculture. Because without food, there wouldn't be civilization.
Is that part of your message as a state FFA president? As you travel around, you get a chance to talk with a lot of kids about those kind of things?
I do. One of my team's goals this year is to promote agricultural literacy, and we're promoting it as tell your story. Every single person in this nation, in this world, has a story about agriculture because they consume agricultural products every single day. And by telling everyone how we're involved in agriculture, how they're involved in agriculture, it promotes agricultural literacy not only in our state, but throughout the nation and the globe as well.
All right, very good. So that kind of gives you a setting of what we're going to talk about the rest of the program. When we come back, we're going to get more into this whole issue of how do we fight the problem of childhood obesity? How do we also deal with those that are, having a problem getting enough food to eat, the food insufficient as it's called? And then how do school districts with tight budgets provide the food that the students need and still meet the standards that are coming down from USDA? How does dairy play a role in this? Even though dairy sometimes gets a black eye, potatoes sometimes get a black eye. It's amazing these nutritional foods that most of us have come to almost take for granted, unfortunately, are under attack in some quarters. So we have to address that issue. So much more to come. Stay with us. From Lexington, Kentucky, it's halftime on AgriTalk.
Futures from the Chicago Board of Trade at Mercantile Exchange are mostly lower at midday. It's a market update with AgriTalk. Corn on the Board of Trade, December down 16 1/4 at 626 1/2. Corn on the March down 16 3/4, 635 1/4. It's May down 16 1/2 at 641 1/2. July down 15 1/2 at 645. In the soybean trade today, January beans down 9 3/4, 1178. March down 9, 1189. The May down 8 1/2 at 1199 1/4. Soybeans on the July down 8 3/4 at 1208 1/4. Soybean meal for December down 240 at 294. It's January down 220 at 296.10. March down 210 at 299.40, and the May down 190 at 302.80. The soybean oil today, December down 54 at 51.94. January down 49 at 52.26. March down 50 at 52.63. Checking the wheat futures today, December Chicago wheat down 13 1/4 at 603 1/2. The March down 15 3/4, 622, and new crop July down 15 1/4 at 657. Kansas City December wheat down a dime at 677, and the March down 11 3/4 at 688. Checking on the oat trade, December oats down 10 3/4 at 307 1/4. Turning to the Mercantile Exchange for livestock futures today, lean hogs December up 5 cents, 85.60. It's February up 22 at 89.15. April up 5, 92.10, and the man changed at 97.90. Live cattle mostly lower. December down 12 at 121.92. The February up 22 at 124.52. April live cattle up down 15 at 128.20. The June down 37 at 126.90, and August down 40 at 127.05 cents. And on the feeder cattle, November down 22 at 143.17, but January up 42 at 149.30. It's the March unchanged at 150.25, and April unchanged at 151.35. Those are the markets with AgriTalk, the voice of rural America.
Welcome to this edition of the American Farm Bureau's Foodie News. We're taking a look at the foods consumers want beyond what they need. I'm Cindy Sirikas. Today, we'll be talking about the popularity of popcorn right after this.
While banking, manufacturing, and trucking are all important segments of Arkansas's economy, do you know that agriculture is the state's largest industry? 1 in every 5 jobs is related to agriculture. From the farmers and ranchers who produce our food and fiber, to food processors, researchers, and biofuels manufacturers, Arkansas agriculture also generates about 20% of the state's gross domestic product. Yes, agriculture is important to all of us. A message from Arkansas Farm Bureau.
Ryan Weeks, a Nebraska farmer, has the scoop on popcorn, which remains one of America's most popular snacks.
I think everybody likes to go to the movies, don't they? It's a simple snack. It's a good snack. It's easy to like.
There are some differences in popcorn preferences around the world.
Well, it depends on where you're at. You know, here in the U.S., first of all, there's different kinds of popcorns. There's your mushroom varieties, which tend to come out in kind of a ball, and they don't have a bunch of little pieces on the outside. Those are the kinds you use to put, you know, like make caramel corn and colored corn and stuff like that for your confection type varieties, and also like kettle corn. And then you've got your, what they call butterfly popcorn, which has a lot of little offshoots outside that mushroom, and it has a large expansion factor is what they called it. I've learned a lot about popcorn since I started growing it, but it depends on where you're at. In the U.S., we're not super picky about our popcorn. We like our popcorn, but, you know, countries like Japan and India, they really like a large expansion factor, big popcorn. And that's what I've mostly grown as our premium popcorn these last couple years. You got to be very careful when you're harvesting it so you don't scratch the kernel, because if you scratch the kernel, it won't pop and you end up with old mates. So you also got to make sure that you harvest it at the right moisture and it gets stored right in order to make sure that you have a good pop to it and a good expansion factor. And the company that we work with, Preferred Popcorn, does all of that testing and stuff. They do a real good job. Nice Nebraska family-owned company. From my point of view, I do have a neighbor that grows some popcorn organically. It's a weedy mess, and I understand why. I mean, it's very difficult to control your weeds. It's also very difficult.
Okay, we're about ready to start up again.
Of the ground when you're in an organic situation. Sustainability in our mind also includes profitability. And one thing that's done when we raise popcorn is we have to document every single little thing we do to that field. If we apply a pesticide, if we apply a herbicide, we need to record when we harvest it. Every bit of popcorn that we raise
information
is source verified back to the individual field and producer. That's one of the things that's required.
Thanks for listening to Foodie News.
Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Vance Publishing Corporation, affiliate stations, or sponsors. Call toll-free 888-247-4825 to participate in today's program. Now back to AgriTalk and Mike Adams.
Welcome back. We're in Lexington, Kentucky. At just a fabulous facility here, the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm, and you're going to hear more about that on tomorrow's program. But we're here for the National Farm City Council Symposium, looking at the childhood obesity issue and the school lunch program, meeting those nutritional standards, and especially the changing standards that are coming down from USDA, or being proposed anyway. How do schools meet those ongoing needs? We're talking with Kathy Belcher, Manager of School Programs, Southeast Dairy Association, Kendall Mallory, Kentucky State FFA President, and Michelle Coker, Child Nutrition Director for the Fayette County School Systems here in Kentucky. Michelle, let me come back to you. Kendall talked about the local movement. We're hearing more and more about that. School districts purchasing food from local farmers. How much of that's being done here in your district?
We've done quite a bit for us. About 3 years ago, we started with the hydroponic lettuce out of Western Kentucky. About a year ago, we found a more local supplier from Bourbon County for hydroponic lettuce. Even actually interested in possibly this new facility assisting us with growing some hydroponic lettuce as well.
So when they're growing in greenhouses, then they can provide you with that produce even in the wintertime.
Yes, and it's a beautiful product. It comes with the roots on it. It lasts very long, 2 weeks for us. So it's a good product for us to use.
What is the process to make sure that's approved by USDA?
We look at GAP processing, if they've been trained through the GAP process, and then we do our procurement model and bid it out.
So you enter into contracts with local producers?
Yes.
Now, what about as far as distribution, transportation? Are those challenges for you?
For our district, it is. For 54 sites, it's a very challenge because if one local produce or farmer can't provide it, then we've got to go to a second, a third, a fourth. If they don't have the means of transportation to get it to our different sites, it can be very challenging for us.
Are you concerned about meeting these new regulations coming down from USDA? Not only from providing what they're going to require, but also the cost of it?
Yes, the cost is going to be a huge factor for us.
How so?
With offering the certain items that you have to offer for breakfast and for lunch, the mandatory items, it's going to raise that cost for us.
And many have raised that question. It may become cost prohibitive for some school districts. What's your alternative? I mean, do you have one?
It can be cost prohibitive. With schools, child nutrition programs, they are self-operating, self-independent. So they have to operate as a business. Actually, they pay their districts for gas, fuel, they pay all their supplies. They're self-supporting. So if they run in the red, then the district has to pick up, that tab. And so we don't want to run in the red.
Wow. So that's a big part of this challenge. Do you monitor what kids eat, what they like and what they don't like, as far as what you offer them in the program?
Most definitely, yes.
And what do they like the most?
Depending on what item it is. Of course, our pizzas are a pretty good idea, but we do see a large variety of fresh fruit and vegetables that they enjoy.
Oh, they do like fruits and vegetables.
Yes, they do. In our district, yes.
Yeah. I just talked this week with some folks with Domino's Pizza. And they have a Smart Slice pizza that is approved by USDA for this program. So those are the types of things you look for. Then a lot of people would say, well, how can you be feeding kids pizza if you're worried about nutrition? But you can do both, right?
You can, and in moderation.
So do you look at things like that? I mean, they want pizza, so we're going to find pizzas that fit the program. Is that it?
Right. And there's, like I said, the vendors are really stepping up. We have a lot of whole grain products for the crust and the breadings. We have lower sodium items, lower fat items that we're using.
All right. Let's go back to Kendall Mallory here, Kentucky State FFA President. Kendall, this movement towards local produce for school lunches is creating quite an opportunity for FFA chapters.
It is, very much so. Every FFA member and every agricultural education student is required to have a project outside of school. It's named the SAE project, Supervised Agricultural Experience. And with these, students are able to take some aspect of agriculture and have a part in it. This is an opportunity for them to make their own, or to produce their own food, have their own gardens, and have someone to give it to so that their families just not, which is great that the families eat it, but it's a way for them to learn business techniques. It's a way for them to learn marketing techniques. And when FFA members and agricultural education students have that opportunity, it prepares them for any career that they could use those skills in.
And a lot of good examples here in Kentucky.
A lot. Like I said, Boyle County, Fayette County also does a lot. And I know that the Governor's Garden Initiative, which is by First Lady Jane Brashear here in Kentucky, she has gardens throughout throughout the state. There are 5 right now, and one is actually at the Horse Park here in Lexington. So you can go there, see what they're growing. You can actually work in the garden, and the FFA chapters take care of it. The food that's grown there is donated to local food banks, local food pantries. The ultimate goal is for people to be able to have their own gardens, so for schools to have their own gardens and to take that food and use it in their local community.
Michelle, let me ask you this. We've been talking fruits, vegetables, pizza. I want to know about meat. Where do you get the meat for the school lunch program?
Currently, we're getting it through our vendors. We're actually going to do a program getting from a local Marksbury Farms. We're bringing some meat in for a special theme meal at one of our schools coming up.
What's the most popular meat item with kids?
Chicken
Really?
nuggets.
Well, chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets.
Wow. And where do you get your chicken nuggets?
From our vendors.
From a vendor.
Yes.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking, no, you surely don't. No, okay. I could just see you at the drive-through every morning. No, okay. All right. Let's turn back to the dairy side of this because, Kathy, something the dairy industry has been working on, providing smoothies for the school lunch program as well.
You heard Michelle describe how a breakfast now needs to have a protein component and a fruit component. Well, yogurt counts as a protein equivalent. So a logical next step is to help schools have smoothies as part of their breakfast program. Now, they could also be lunch or an a la carte item, but it would combine frozen fruit, so you've got the fruit component with yogurt, and smoothies have become so popular outside of school, now they're moving into the school cafeteria.
And you have several of these types of programs, don't you?
Yes, we are providing grants to schools to buy commercial-grade blenders to allow them to make those smoothies. Another grant program we have is actually, we're calling it Coolers for Coaches. We talked about flavored milk earlier and how that can be part of the solution for obesity, but also providing the nutrition that growing students need. So looking at the research that linked flavored milk, specifically chocolate is what was researched, as a refuel recovery beverage, because it has that proper proportion of protein to carbohydrates, but it also has electrolytes and then minerals that they need. So providing coolers to coaches so they can promote that chocolate milk with their athletes.
That created quite a bit of a stir when the dairy industry started saying, hey, chocolate milk is a sports drink. Athletes drink it to recover when they've been running, working out, or whatever, and some immediately started questioning that. But you have the proof. You have the data.
It is the carbohydrate to protein ratio that really makes it a tasty, nutritious, and economical beverage following a workout. But it also is a high percentage of water, so it's replenishing the fluids. It has electrolytes. It has magnesium, potassium, calcium, so important minerals that athletes, well, we all do. We all need those.
All right, I want to come back to Michelle. We're talking about childhood obesity. We know it's a concern. How big of a concern or how big of an issue do you see it here in your schools?
It's growing everywhere, and we definitely want to be a role model for our children. The nutrition side, of course, we're following USDA guidelines. One thing that's very important is we have portion control. A lot of times when children are out and about in the evenings or on the weekends, then it's all-you-can-eat buffets or large portion of sizes. So portion is very important. And our district also is very focused on physical activity. That plays a role as well with that.
I was going to say, that's always been a concern of mine, all the focus just on nutrition. That's important, but they also need physical activity, and that's a big part of a good nutritional program and good health for kids.
Yes, a very big part, and they're getting out throughout the district of energizers, kind of breaking up the classroom, learning through exercise and activities. It's been very successful.
Take us through a typical lunch or breakfast setting at your schools as far as what the students have as far as choices. I think things have changed a lot since I was in school. Kind of give us an idea how it works.
We do the offer versus serve program. That means that children can select what they want. I know when I was in school, you got a tray.
Yeah, that's right.
On that tray were these certain items.
The selecting came when you stared trading with who you sat next to.
Exactly,
right? Yeah.
And doubled up or did without.
Right.
But basically, the children can go through. They have 2 main, usually hot entrees a day. But along with that, they have sandwiches and stuffed salads and other types of salads and other things that are available. They're offered every day, yogurt and graham crackers. that they have those choices every day with 2 mains kind of changing out. Then they usually have 1 to 2 hot vegetables, green beans, corn, peas, carrots available to them for choices. We always have a fresh tossed salad every day along with some other salads. We always do a minimum of 2 fresh fruits and 2 canned fruits available as well.
How much is actually prepared? I remember the days where you knew your school cooks. You know, they were local people from your community. How's that done now?
It's gone more to convenience items, more heat and serve for the safety and sanity of the program. But basically, we do get a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables in that we are preparing more. So
that still is a big job, right? How many people work in that area?
It's in all of our kitchens.
Yeah.
So it's throughout.
So will that be a challenge in how you prepare some of these things from the new regulations that they're talking about?
Yes, it will. The labor will be a challenge. The training will be a challenge too.
And another cost,
and
right?
Another cost, yes.
That they're going to have to deal with. All right. We need to take one more break. We're talking with Kathy Belcher, Manager of School Programs, Southeast Dairy Association, Kendall Mallory, Kentucky State FFA President, and Michelle Coker, the Child Nutrition Director for Fayette County School Systems here in Kentucky. Interesting discussion going on here about the new choices that are available to students, but also how do we meet their nutritional needs and deal with this issue of childhood obesity. All that more coming up. Stay with us. This is AgriTalk.
All across America, farmers ask for the 2 for Genuity Roundup Ready 2 Yield soybeans. It's the trait technology with built-in yield opportunity to outperform original Roundup Ready soybeans. Just ask Brian Aberg from Mabel, Minnesota. Aberg says his Asgrow Genuity Roundup Ready 2 Yield soybeans were more consistent with yields of 70 to 72 bushels per acre. In Sedgwick, Kansas, Jamie Dordell planted Channel Genuity Roundup Ready 2 Yield soybeans. He said you can look in the field and just see there are more beans per pod. Dordell's Genuity Roundup Ready 2 Yield soybeans are out-yielding original Roundup Ready soybeans by 2 to 3 bushels on dry land acres and by 3 to 5 bushels on irrigated acres. So make sure you're planting the trait technology that's leading the way to higher yield potential. Ask for the 2 for Genuity Roundup Ready 2 Yield soybeans. Every bean matters to us because every bushel matters to you. For details, call your seed rep or see Genuity.com. Individual results may vary. Always read and follow grain marketing and all other stewardship guidelines and pesticide label directions.
Farming used to pay off only at harvest. Now, with the Bayer Crop Science Innovation Plus program, you can enjoy rewards all year long when it's family time, big game time, or buckle down and work overtime. Purchase qualifying crop protection brands through Innovation Plus and earn points towards
are you learning anything?
shop tools, home goods, or cash. Call your Bayer Crop Science representative.
I think school lunches are a lot different than what I remember them being, you know?
I'm a doctor.
I'm a teacher.
I live in the South.
I don't remember many options.
I speak fluent
I remember
Spanish.
looking at the menu. I'm going to take my lunch today.
My eyes are blue.
We're very different people, but we do have something in common. I made a donation to the Red Cross.
When disaster struck and I needed help, her gift to the American Red Cross changed my life.
When you support the American Red Cross, you change a life, starting with your own.
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcross.org and find out about life-changing opportunities in your area.
Recently on AgriTalk.
We wrap up our conversation with Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack. Some concern about HSUS influence on some events that are going to be taking place. I'll let you comment.
There was a request for an opportunity for the Humane Society to come in and express their concerns. And obviously we have a responsibility to listen, not necessarily to be moved or to decide as a result of what we hear, but to certainly listen. And our view is that when we listen, it ought to be in the context of everybody being at the table, hearing the same thing at the same time, and being able to respond. So when and if there is a meeting, no doubt it will not just simply be with one aspect of whatever issue is going to be raised. Sometimes people get a little bit sensitive about all this and feel that there's going to be deals cut. That's not the case. This is just simply these folks have asked for an opportunity to express themselves. They have a right to do that in a democracy. I have a right to also know that there are going to be other opinions on things, and I want to hear what those are.
You're listening to AgriTalk, the voice of rural America.
Welcome back to AgriTalk as we wrap things up here in Lexington, Kentucky at the National Farm City Council Symposium. We're looking at the childhood obesity issue and school lunch programs and breakfast programs and meeting those needs for students, and also the new regulations and proposals that are coming down from USDA. As we go for our final comments here, go back to Kendall Mallory, Kentucky State FFA President. One of the things we're hearing here, there are more healthy options and choices for students to make in school lunch programs. But the key is educating them to make the right choices. And Kendall, I know that's a big thing that FFA is looking at, educating students both on the production side as well as on the consumer side.
Yes, that's perfectly right. We are the largest youth organization, and it's student-led. We get to decide what direction we want to take, and because of that, we have a huge potential to make a difference in this problem. We can be the one to say, let's do this initiative. Let's teach them about, why vegetables are so important to our diet, because it is right up the agricultural alley. We can also teach people that we're the producers. Agriculturalists are the producers of the food. And as producers, we have to exhibit knowledge about it. We have to share the knowledge. And by creating health organizations and leadership initiatives with health and working with school lunches, FFA has a huge potential to make a difference in the childhood obesity today.
All right. And Kathy, I know one of the programs the dairy industry is very excited about and is doing great things. You've partnered with the NFL, the most visible and popular group practically going today, a very successful group, for Fuel Up to Play 60. This gets back to what we were talking about earlier, nutrition on one side, physical activity on the other.
Yes, that's what makes Fuel Up to Play 60 so exciting, is that it does address both sides of the fitness equation. We're encouraging kids to fuel up on healthy foods, specifically the ones they're not getting enough of, so that's whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and low-fat dairy, and also to encourage them to get that 60 minutes of physical activity before, during, and after school. So a very comprehensive program. As Mallory mentioned, kids are the key to Fuel Up to Play 60. It is designed to be a student-driven program where they are taking the lead to determine what strategies will help motivate their peers.
And it helps to see an NFL star kind of leading the way.
Oh, that NFL adds a little bit of glitz. We have players or retired players who can come out to schools and make appearances and really encourage kids to take this seriously, really think about the choices that they're making in terms of their food and their physical activity.
And Michelle, finally, as we're talking about choices, I mean, you can't make the kids eat. You offer them these choices, and then you work to educate them about making good choices.
And that's one thing exciting that we started last year, is we want to provide that education, not just feed the children. We want to provide the education. With that, we developed the Connect the Dots program. We veered that off of the My Pyramid, now it's My Plate, using the colors to help the children learn to eat a variety and eat a rainbow of colors. So we've been very successful. We piloted it last year in about 5 schools. Now we have it in all of our elementaries this year, and we're actually going to middle and high with that as well.
Okay, what happens if the kid's colorblind?
We say pick one of each item.
All right, there you go.
We work with them.
You got it covered. All right.
We have it covered.
It sounds like then, I mean, school districts are really taking this seriously, trying to provide good, healthy options. But there are challenges that you face financially and otherwise to be able to do that. I mean, that's an ongoing issue that you deal with.
Yes, it is. And we have to just look at each piece and find out what we can tackle first and go from there.
Mm-hmm. And, when we look at all these different things, Kathy, and how dairy plays a part in it, it is a matter of choice, and there are options that are out there now, and you get stereotypes sometimes, and you have to sometimes break through that stereotype.
We're encouraging school nutrition personnel to really think outside the milk box. It is not just the milk in the carton that is available or should be available to students, but looking at other ways. Is it string cheese as an extra, nutrition a la carte option? When you look at the My Plate, that little circle of dairy intersects that plate. That's a message that says that could be cheese on the baked potato or the salad or the sandwich. It could be yogurt mixed with fruit for a parfait or in a smoothie that we talked about earlier. It could be the 16-ounce chug of milk as another a la carte nutritious beverage option. So thinking of ways to bring dairy into the school lunchroom in a variety of ways, not just the carton of milk on the tray.
Michelle, did you like the move to My Plate away from the old food pyramid?
Most definitely. I was in healthcare 14 years prior, so very familiar with that. But the My Plate is more visual, and I think that parents and students can understand that better as far as portion control, because I think for their obesity efforts, our portion control has just gotten so out of hand, and now we're coming back to that.
Let me ask you this. We don't know if these proposals from USDA are going to be passed to go through or not, but kind of let's assume they are. Will they help or hurt in the battle over child obesity, do you think?
Right now, everybody's doing such a wonderful job in what they're offering in our child nutrition programs. There will be some benefits down the road. We will just have to adjust to that.
But there are going to be some bumps in that road,
There
it
are going
sounds
to be
like.
some bumps, yes.
Okay. And Kendall, young people, it's up to them too. They have a part to play in it. They have to make good choices. Hopefully they'll get some guidance from home and school, but we know in some cases they don't always get that. So it's important to reach them however we can.
Exactly. And through education, I honestly believe that education is the way out of every problem. And it has to start with the younger generations, because if we don't teach them, then who's going to teach the generation after them? And so that is why agricultural education and school lunch education programs are so important today.
Michelle, let me ask you this. How many kids eat out of vending machines at school?
We have no vending machines at school. The only vending we actually have is called meal vending, and that's through our program, and they can pick 3 to 5 items and have a well-balanced meal out of that machine.
Because that's been an issue, and we've heard about, kids rather go to a vending machine than go through the school lunch program. So that's not an option here.
No, it's not an option.
Well, that's one way to help them make a good choice. That'll work. All right. And Kathy, as we wrap up with you, again, dairy always has and still plays an important role in good, healthy diets for children and for adults as well.
That's right. The whole My Plate, all of those food groups are very, very important, and dairy is one of those. And all of our nutrition education materials really promote the entire plate or pyramid or food, whatever the system of the current day. But milk is an important part of that, and it is a part of the solution.
For those lactose intolerant, I understand you're addressing that issue as well.
Certainly, there are options that completely reduce the lactose, so there is milk available. And actually, many schools do make that an option. So students who are lactose intolerant can request a lactose-free or reduced milk.
All right. I want to thank all of our panelists. Michelle, I think we're going to eat some of that food right here for our luncheon, right? So we're going to see if everything matches up, and I'm sure it will. We're looking forward to it. One of the things we wanted to do with this event is actually eat the food that the students eat, so we're looking forward to that. I want to thank Kathy Belcher, Manager of School Programs, Southeast Dairy Association, Kendall Mallory, Kentucky State FFA President, and Michelle Coker, Child Nutrition Director for the Fayette County School Systems here in Kentucky. Thank you all very, very much. Big thanks to New Holland Agriculture for their grant that made this broadcast possible. We look forward to learning more about the Locust Trace Agri-Science Farm. You'll hear more about that coming up on our program tomorrow and the wonderful things they're doing here. Thank you for joining us for the National Farm City Council Symposium in Lexington, Kentucky. This is AgriTalk.